From the cracked boombox speakers on Grandpa's old skiff to dockside jam boxes and the ultra-high fidelity sound systems of today's luxury yachts. However you listen to your favorite shows, this is the Stomping Grounds podcast by Boat Trader. No matter where you are, locked on land or cruising topside, we're bringing you stories from real boaters all across America who show us why they love their boat and what makes it the perfect vessel for their neck of the woods.
Today you'll hear my conversation with Jen Pate, CEO of Feel Ageless. In episode 3 of Stomping Grounds, we met up with Jen and her husband Jonas Pate in Wilmington, North Carolina, and got a glimpse into their family's on-the-water lifestyle, which served as inspiration for the hit Netflix show Outer Banks. We learned how the family comes together and connects around boating, and we touched on some interesting topics around family dynamics, remote work lifestyles, and overall health and wellness that we're going to delve a little deeper into today. I really enjoyed our conversation. I hope you do too. So let's get into it. Welcome to the podcast, Jen. So great to have you.
Thank you. I'm super psyched to be here.
Cool. So I know, when we were together filming Stomping Grounds 3, we got to learn a little bit about your family life there on the water in North Carolina. I'm excited to delve into a little bit more of that topic. Like, what role has boating played in your life and in your family's life there?
I mean, it's been huge. I didn't quite realize. So we moved here from Los Angeles to Wilmington, North Carolina 5 years ago. And my husband, being from North Carolina, was more of the on the water boat guy. I mean, I grew up in Chicago, a little boating there. It wasn't really in my family. And when we moved here, he absolutely insisted we were on the water with like a dock at our house. And I did not understand how game-changing that was going to be for our family. The amount of time we spend on the boat, on the water, connecting, it's just been like the biggest blessing in our life.
Yeah. And we've talked about sort of like the healing nature and how people can come together. Like, what benefits do you think being on the water has, and have you seen in your family members and in your life?
Well, I think it kind of takes the pulse down. I mean, the world is crazy. I mean, it's intense. There's more pressure on everybody. There's more chaos. I think anytime anyone can get outside in nature with fresh air, I mean, there are studies on it. I certainly am, not going to say something that's like revolutionary. We know this, but we have to do it. And you also tend to get off your devices when you're out in nature. The air, I love the seabirds. Being on the water, there's also a calming effect. I mean, I want to get super mom-like with you for a second. I mean, you're born in the womb, swishing around in water. It's calming. It's literally how we came into this world. And so I think being on the water, being in nature, it's really, really important. The world's not going anywhere, and we all have to take that time, whatever that looks like for people. And some people may not be able to get out on the water. I think it's great if you can, but walking outside, getting in any green space, I think it really kind of just calms your heart and your mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, so your husband, Jonas, he grew up boating a little more than you did, and now he's got you into it. I guess that was kind of inspiration behind the show, as probably a lot of people know. But it's, in the show, the kids are just out on the little beater boats, which we talk about when I was there with you. And in episode 1 of Stomping Grounds, our video series, I'm on my little tin boats out at Cape Cod, So I think you said something interesting. Not everybody can do this. Maybe not everybody can get on a really fancy dual console or a big fancy wake boat or on up to a motor yacht, but nearly everybody can get on the water on something, right?
Well, that is true. I mean, we bought our kids this little used Carolina skiff, which has been literally the best purchase ever. It's a great way, if you have kids, to get them on the water, to get them to learn. But you can, I mean, I have a nice kayak. I've got, the Hobie with the pedals and the paddle. Yep. You can get a kayak, a paddleboard, a little boat. There are so many used items you can find. You do not have to, I think boating has this feel like you think, oh, boating, it's fancy. Everybody's got to be, it's yachts. It's just not. Getting on the water is for everybody. It's totally accessible. And the experience is just as amazing. As a matter of fact, the bigger and the more expensive the boat, the harder it is to maintain, the more responsibility. So you also want to get something that's realistic to your lifestyle too. But that little used Carolina skiff, my kids have worn that thing out.
Yeah, exactly. No, I marvel at the engineering that goes into one of those big super yachts, that we look at sometimes. It's a whole team of people that are required to keep it running. But, what I love about boating is also the diversity of it. Like you said, you have that little kayak. I have a little kayak. I think the old harbor master gave me the kayak at the Cape. That was one of my first ways that I explored the marsh, so it was free, So I think, when people think, oh, there's a barrier to entry on boating, it's like, well, only maybe in your mind, maybe, because if you live near any body of water, you can get out there, right?
It is so very true. And I think that is the really important thing. And it's so cool too, because it can be totally meditative and solo. It could be social. I told you all about this, but one of the biggest bonding I've had with this group of women, we have a little name for ourselves, the W5, the Wilmington 5, but There are 5 of us. They all paddleboard and I kayak. And when COVID started and we were all literally locked down, we would get on our paddleboards and kayak and go out on the water. And sometimes everybody gets really quiet and you're kind of in this meditative space and looking around. And then sometimes we'd get super chatty and hang. So it's a really good social activity too. And for some reason, I was talking to my friends about this. There's something about being outside on the water that people sort of really share deeply. I don't know. There's somehow there's this understanding that you're kind of in this sacred space and people seem to share more about their lives. I don't know. Maybe that's just my experience, but definitely been an experience.
No, absolutely. And there's a book that I often refer to called Blue Mind by Wallace J. Nichols. And, I think one of his quotes is, we're beginning to learn that our brains are hardwired to react positively to water and that being near it can calm and connect us. I think connect us is like a key word too. Increase innovation and insight and even heal what's broken. So I think, he nails it with that quote, and that's a cool book. If anybody hasn't checked it out, it's worth reading.
It's a great book.
Yeah. It talks about all that stuff. But you mentioned like the W5, that's awesome. I like that. We've talked about it a little bit. Like, I think, in terms of the family dynamics, which we talk about a little in our episode with you, what, being a mom, and being a female boat captain, right? Like, I think you famously said to me, like, we're not damsels in distress. We can drive the boat too, Can you talk to me about that aspect a little and those dynamics and learning like how to drive and all that?
Absolutely. Well, this was the weirdest thing to me. So I moved to North Carolina and got a boat, and I didn't even think about driving it myself because it just, in my mind, it was, I don't know, it was like my husband's thing. And so living here, I had this realization. I was like, okay, if I have to go to the grocery store, I don't wait for my husband to drive me. Like,
right.
Why am I waiting for him to take me out on the water? And it's something that I think that the boating culture is catching up to that. You and I have discussed that. Even I think boat sales, I think you had said were up like 70% in maybe 2020 or 2021 for women.
Yeah, women boat shoppers. Yeah, 75%, I think. Yep.
Which it's so crazy. So I think what's really important too, any women listening who, have a husband who boats, and it's so funny, Ryan, because it seems sort of archaic. Like I almost feel like I'm a 1950s housewife. Like I'm waiting for my husband to get home. And for some reason, boating's kind of like that. There is some physicality to it. And so I don't, that, because I was talking to some girlfriends about this exact thing. Like, we need to empower ourselves. My husband travels a lot for work. He's a director, as you know.
Yep.
And, this summer, I'll be back and forth where he's working. But my big goal is to not be nervous at all about taking the Grady White out on my own. And once again, there is some physicality, you know, there's some anchoring, there's some pulling, there's some, you know, he's bigger and stronger than I am. I'm strong for my age and my size. So you do have to take that into account, and that is an actual thing. But there is no reason that any woman can't get out on the water and get behind a boat. That's how I look at it. If you drive a car, you can drive a boat.
Yeah, exactly. No, and of course there's some physicality, but that's what I love to see, that people getting comfortable with getting on a boat, driving themselves, and then eventually, you know, stepping up and kind of taking charge. That's really cool. And as a mom, that you do that with your family, you know, I think that's really awesome.
Yeah. Well, my kids drove a boat before I did.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
I'm still in the learning phase. Kids, they got the opportunity to get out on the water, and they took to it quickly.
Yep.
And for them, it's so much fun. I mean, you know, I feel so grateful that we moved here at the time. So when we moved here 5 years ago, my daughter was going into 8th grade. My son was going into 9th grade. So they had their high school years on the water. It's awesome. Such a big part of what they do and who they are now. And the fact that they have that for their life too, that they are now boaters, is really, really cool.
You and I have talked a little bit about like a healthy work-life balance. And, you know, I think we talk about, can you talk about your Feel Ageless company and kind of how that ties in with boating in a lot of ways? I think
it does. The first thing I want to address is the work-life balance. I think it's, if only it was a balance. I think that it's really hard. And any woman, any mom, and I think, by the way, I'm going to address the mom female part, but I also want to say to any men out there who are listening, there's more expectations on all of us than there ever have been before. So when I talk about this, I really also want to say that for men, there's a lot more responsibility with the family and with, you know, domestic and fatherhood. So I'm not dissing men, because everybody has a lot more expectations. As a woman, I want to say that anyone who's trying to balance work and family, it's hard. And sometimes, I mean, somebody once gave me a great quote in an interview I did, and they said, you know, you can have it all, but not at one time. And so as I go into what Feel Ageless is, I want people to know that I have been blessed to be able to kind of take my foot on and off the gas for work because of my husband's work. But I've made a lot of choices for our family to either stop working or put work on pause because my family has needed me. So it's challenging. And for anybody listening, you are so not alone in it. There's no perfect way to do it. So having said that, I'm a content creator in that, I mean, I've reinvented myself many times. I was a professional dancer when I was young, doing concert work and theater. Then I was a casting director for years. And then I had a web series called Jen and Barb Mom Life, which was about motherhood, and had a lot of success with that. And then kind of took a pause with family, traveling, and kids. And then I really started thinking about, as we're getting older, what life looks like. 50, for example, when I grew up, that was ancient. That was like grandparent, little old dotty people with, like that really was at least my perception. I'm sure that they may push back on that, but it looks different. We're living longer. We have so many more opportunities. We have this whole kind of extended middle age. And I wanted to address that. And I wanted to help people with preventative care. Because to me, it's about keeping your health span on par with your lifespan. So I don't want to live to 100 if I can't use my body and my mind. I want to live as long as everything's still going. And so what I'm interested in conversations about finance, fitness, health, relationships, this sort of longevity of all that, and where kind of boating life and water life, it comes into lifestyle. And when we moved here, it was a big change. I've been in LA for like 25 years and I love my life there and I love my people there. And while I still love it there, I can tell you living in a smaller town on the water, the pace of it, the health that I feel sort of mentally, emotionally, it has a lot to do with that. So I think, and if we kind of shift a little bit into that lifestyle, not everybody can move, and we did it pre-COVID, but now with this, the way we're able to communicate with Zoom and all the different Google Meets and all the options we have for work, I would implore people to really think about their lifestyle and their quality of life and evaluate where they are.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned sort of, some of the shift during the pandemic with people's work life. And, I think remote work life, actually, we talked about how women boat shoppers were up 75%. I think a lot of that was tied with the pandemic and looking for outdoor activities, socially distant activities. And now, since the pandemic is thankfully winding down, right? But those will continue. I think we had a campaign called Work from Helm a year ago, hashtag Work from Helm. It was like embracing that work life. That's a way I think people can, maybe we can't all work from our boat, but you can at least make sure you're taking that time off to get out on the water in between, create your work environment at your house and separate it. But also you have the flexibility now to be able to take calls on the boat, right? And be able to do that kind of stuff.
Oh, I've done many, as has my husband. We have both taken absolute work calls from the boat. We've worked on the boat. I mean, obviously there's some things you can't do, but working from the helm, it's not out of the realm of possibility. Right. It's, got to get some good Wi-Fi or good cellular, but it's certainly doable. And I think that, it's sort of, obviously the pandemic was so tragic in so many ways, but if you kind of look at various silver linings or things that have shifted in our culture, I think this idea of being the kind of remote working, being able to choose a little bit more of where you spend your time, how you spend your time, I don't think that's going to change. I think even as, hopefully, I mean, we are, this pandemic seems to be coming to sort of a new chapter. But I hope that the options of sort of working remotely and creating a lifestyle and quality of life that's healthier, I mean, Americans, we go till we drop, in other cultures, that's just not the case. And it's just, I mean, I don't know where everybody's racing to, right. It's like to get more, do more, have more. And then when you get there, you really don't feel that much different. It's like, I've watched it. I've been around people who've had so much money you can't even imagine. I've been around people. I mean, it's different if there's sort of this study on happiness, and I think, don't quote me, but I think it was about, there's no sort of past like making, I think it was like 60,000 a year, whatever it was, the sort of happy quotient didn't really change. And I'm not saying we don't, the reality of the world. I mean, we've got to put a roof over our heads. I mean, the price of gas right now, the price of groceries. I'm not saying that what we need isn't very, very important. But I will say, being, a little bit of an elder stateswoman here, is that more doesn't mean happier. More doesn't mean better. So while we all want to work hard and we want to have this feeling of success in what we do, you also really got to slow down and enjoy it, because if you don't, by the time you may have whatever you think you wanted, you may not have the ability to do all of this stuff.
I mean, it reminds me of, one of my favorite quotes, and hopefully I don't butcher it, by Jacques Cousteau, is the happiness of the bee and the dolphin is to exist, right? And then I think he said for man, or for humankind, it is to know that and to wonder at it. And I think that's like what being on the water does is slows you down. You know, you see the habitats around you and you connect with nature in a way that I think, you know, you wouldn't do if you weren't on a boat and experiencing the natural world that way. So that's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it really has put a shift in me. And whenever I'm on the water, even if it's just like a walk on the beach and looking at the water, I mean, it's, you know, and I'm sure everybody feels that same way. And, you know, I know that it used to feel like, I mean, you know, so many people are like, they save up for that vacation to get on the water. There may be some, you know, and I mean, I'm not going to all of a sudden tell everybody go move now, but we've had so many people say to us, especially since the pandemic, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you guys did it. Now we're thinking of doing it. And sometimes it's like, it's not easy, but if it's something that you think you may want to do, you should explore it.
Yeah. So anyways, lastly, I think I just wanted to, you know, for fans of the show, you get to travel with your family and be involved in some of those productions, right?
Yeah, we just came back. So anyone who is an Outer Banks fan, so my husband is co-creator, and we just came back. He was there for a couple months, about 6 weeks in Barbados. We were filming, and now filming in Charleston. So all water locations. My husband clearly likes to control his life around water. And so we were just in Barbados, Charleston. And that was, I mean, for Outer Banks, a huge part of the inspiration. My husband and his twin brother, they grew up in North Carolina. They grew up on the water. And so there's 3 creators, my husband, his brother, Josh, and this guy, Shannon Burke. And so Josh and Jonas grew up on the water. So much of Outer Banks is kind of their experience and their lives and their motivation. Hence shooting on the water, being on the water. So yeah, we get to travel a lot, and it's really, really cool.
That's really awesome. And that's for upcoming season 3, is it?
Season 3, which is currently filming. And I can't say when it's hopefully going to come out, because if I get that wrong, I'll be in trouble.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to it too. So for fans of Outer Banks, coming soon, right?
That's right. Coming soon.
All right. And Feel Ageless, check that out. Jen Pate, thanks for joining us on the podcast today. It was great talking to you.
It was my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, Ryan.
All right, everyone. Thanks for watching and listening to the Stomping Grounds podcast. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please consider following or favoriting the show. Please tune in to the next episode. And for now, we'll see you out there on the water. Stay floating, America.